This place part of the city's famous maritime past and present. Docks first built in the 13th century, loading and unloading of wool and wheat and fish and salt. And then a little later, in the 18th century, importing sugar and rum and tobacco and cotton and molasses from the other side of the Atlantic. But those Victorians will never have seen anything quite like this. I'm quite sure what they would have made of the Power8 Sprints racing over 350 metres, slightly quicker initially than the big boats that they used to sail around the world on. But this lot are built for speed, and this for the right to compete in the final against Manchester. Exeter in the red at the top of the screen against Bristol in yellow at the bottom. Haven't overthought the tactics, Bristol. Just go out quick, go out thrashing. Controlled fury, Greg, for 350 metres.
Yeah, controlled fury, and the course looks nice now. The washes and the wakes have gone. There's this nice tailwind on the course, and this Bristol crowd are ready to cheer on this crew in gold, who are sat in position and ready to explode into the race.
For a place in the final, it is Exeter against Bristol.
Bristol. Attention. Go.
And they're underway to a vast roar from the thousands lining the docks on both sides.
There's a real togetherness about both these crews. They both started well, but you can just see the power and aggression in the Bristol crew. And again, they've just, with all that enthusiasm, all that adrenaline, lifted out to a really nice start.
Bristol, the local boys, on familiar water. Not had much time in a boat because of the size of the region, but the half a dozen from Bristol, the one from Worcester and the one from Birmingham are at the moment just ahead, but not by much.
And the Bristol crew are at 48 strokes a minute. Their blade work looks cleaner. It's just that yellow bit that's going in the water. In the other crew, we look to the Exeter crew, there's just a bit of wake, there's a bit of water going up the looms. And look at the steering as well from Bristol.
Bristol being told by the umpire to steer across to the left-hand side, but it doesn't look as if it's affected their run to the line and their run, it seems, into the final.
Well, Bristol have won it on the water, but they did steer across those yellow buoys. But you see the umpire there just held up a white flag to say although they crossed that buoy line, they didn't interfere with the Exeter crew. So that crew from Bristol are going to be safely into the final.
Well, that was some race. And it is Bristol, just to confirm, in front of the sailing ship, the Pelican of London, that's acting as our temporary finish line marker this afternoon. It is the hometown boys who will compete in the final.
Yeah, they steered a bad line. They got pushed across that buoy line. They can't afford to do that later in the final. They were lucky that they didn't end up clashing, because if they'd hit that Exeter boat on the wrong side of the buoys, they would definitely have been disqualified. But no, they stayed safe. They win the race.
So the men's final will be between the favourites Manchester and the home favourites Bristol.
Yeah, perhaps the umpire looked to the crowds lining the banks and said, you know something, I think the white flag's best for everyone. He didn't fancy getting off that boat to a crowd who saw the Bristol team disqualified. Was there an argument there for Bristol to be disqualified, or were they just on the edge playing with fire?
I think they were on the edge. I mean, it's brave of the Cocks to let them go over the line. And I think as well, you can see here, they were really lucky. None of them caught their blades on the buoys. They just went between them. Because the worst thing you can do is catch your blade on one of the strings that holds the buoys in place, get it wrapped around your blade, and that's it, game over for you. So they were very lucky, but as you can see, there's still distance between the blades, the Bristol blades and the Exeter blades, so there's no reason why it would have been a red flag. But yeah, as Greg was saying, they can't afford to do that in the final. And I don't know if, interestingly, we saw at the beginning of the race, the Cox, the camera on the Cox, he was looking over an awful lot. And I just wonder if by him looking, he ended up steering over towards Exeter.
Because the margins are so small, aren't they? The boat is so thin, let's not forget. Those people are new to rowing. It doesn't take very much to steer that in the wrong direction.
No, not at all.
A little bit of physical momentum will do it.
Yeah, a long thin boat with a little rudder, it's a tiny little adjustment, that's all that's needed, and the boat will come around. But again, as I said, with the women's race as well, the bow pair, it's all about their timing as well, and if they're slightly out of time, or one's just hitting the water a little harder than the other, that will tweak the boat around, and the Cox needs to counter that. So there's lots of little things going on, and it's exciting. And you know what, I'm really pleased that there was no interference there, because that would have been really disappointing for the home crowd if Bristol had been disqualified.